Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Courtroom Insider. I'm Nate Eaton coming to you live from Phoenix. Tonight, I thought I'd be talking to you all about opening statements, the first witnesses in the Vallow Daybell trial, what evidence was presented in front of the jury. It's not to be. I don't have any of that to say tonight. I'm going to talk about what did happen today. It was an interesting, memorable day. I don't think that those of us who were there will ever forget it. I don't think the judge will. I don't think the prosecution will. I don't think Vallow Daybell will. I don't think the reporters will. I think it was a day that we will remember. And I am glad that you were here with us. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments below. We'll get to those a little bit later on today. And we will just take it as it comes. Today, Lori is sick and in a wheelchair. And we have a lot to talk about. First off, motions denied. We have some updates on the motions. We talked a little bit about this last night, but we have the official paperwork. It's a sick day, days plural, I should say, not just tonight, but tomorrow as well. Mike Watkiss reacts. Remember Mike, the journalist who has covered all sorts of criminals? I interviewed him a few weeks ago. He interviewed the Night Stalker. He's been the #1 reporter on the Warren Jeffs FLDS investigation. He's here. He was in court today. I think you're going to want to hear his reaction to what played out and if he really thinks that Vallow Daybell is sick or not. Also, Rachel Smith called up the prosecutor after the fact. We had her on last night, and I know some of you had a couple of questions. We're following up with her tonight. What now? What if Lori is sick all week? What does that do to this trial and this pool of jurors who are just kind of hanging out in limbo? Also, we have your questions answered. So we'll get to all of it tonight. Let's kick off by the motions that were denied in Lori's case. I don't want to spend too much time on this because there's other stuff to talk about. But basically, every motion she filed that we talked about earlier, one was the Jeep. She believes that the evidence pertaining to the Jeep should be precluded or not included in the trial because she says that the warrant, that Detective Hermosillo obtained it without a warrant, and that the information on the warrant may have been wrong. Prosecutor responded and said, no, he had a warrant, but the year was wrong on the Jeep, and then it was corrected. And then the judge came out with a ruling and said the evidence is allowed in. The evidence was legally obtained and everything is fine. So that motion was denied. She had another motion that she thought one of the witnesses from the police department should be precluded from testifying because of something that happened in December of last year. And this person no longer works for the police department. And the judge responded and said, whatever happened in December of this past year should not be allowed into the trial because it has nothing to do with this case. It has to do with other issues. But she can testify about her investigation into the case back when this broke in 2019. So that is allowed in. And then there was other evidence that Lori did not want the text messages and cell phone data in between Alex Cox and I believe Charles Vallow, some of those things. She said that it was hearsay. The judge said it wasn't hearsay because it involved the actions of Vallow Daybell herself in those conversations. So those will be allowed in, and that was the other motion that was denied. So the judge is up to date on all of the motions that Lori Daybell has filed, and the trial will continue perhaps as normal. Let me refresh you as far as what happened Friday. And Thursday really is when they went through the questionnaires for the jury. And then Friday is when all of the questionnaires, all of the jurors who passed the questionnaires and advanced were brought down to the courthouse in person for in-person questioning. And then in the afternoon, what was supposed to happen is this pool of, I believe, 68 were going to be questioned, and they were going to whittle that down to 16. Well, Lori Daybell was not feeling well. She said she was not feeling well. And so the judge said, how many of you cannot come back Monday? And out of the 68, around 54 said they could return today. So he dismissed them all and said, the 54 that can come back, please come back Monday morning at 10. And he told Lori herself, if you are sick, please let us know on Monday. Well, we had the weekend. She had the rest of Friday. She had all day Saturday. She had all day Sunday. Imagine being sick in jail, by the way. I cannot imagine a worse place to be sick and try to recover than in a jail when all you want is a comfortable bed and, a bath or something. Anyway, that's beside the point. So this morning comes, we check in. I check in with the court to say, is things still happening? And I'm told that, yeah, she's been brought down to the courthouse. Court is going to happen. Go down there. There's a lot of people there today. Nice to meet many of you from all over the place. A couple drove from Texas or flew in from Texas. Others from Utah, from Idaho, just all over the place, Arizona. And we went into court. Well, what happened was all of the jurors were congregated, and then they let in the reporters first. And we all sat on the back row. And right when we walked in, the judge was already conversing with Lori about her health, about how she was feeling. At that moment, I didn't quite see, and I don't think any of us saw that she had been wheeled in on a wheelchair because she was already at the table. It was only when she went to take a break with her defense counsel that we saw them wheel her out with a sheriff's office wheelchair. And then she came back in. And when she was wheeled out, she kind of went out like this, head down, head in her hand. When she came back, she was like this. And then when she left again, she was like this. All of this happened outside of the presence of the jury, which is how we were able to get a video copy of it, because we're not allowed to film jury proceedings. And so the camera was not rolling on this. So we asked the court after the fact if we could get a copy of the proceedings. And let me just play it for you in case you missed it earlier. I put it on our YouTube channel. But here's how it played out. The quality's awful. These are the court cameras. There's multiple boxes. The audio's good, which is honestly what matters. But you can kind of hear and play out. Lori is on this box right here. She is on the end. No, she's right there in the middle. So you can't really tell that she's in the wheelchair. This is the prosecutor's box. This is the judge up top. This is the witness stand. And then anyone that joins in via Zoom are there. Brandon Boudreaux and his wife were in court today. And let me just play out exactly what happened.
All right, this is the time set for continuing jury selection, State of Arizona versus Vallow Daybell. CR 2022-001242. Appearances, please.
Attorney Kay, on behalf of the state and for the record, the victim is in the victim room.
All right. Ms. Daybell?
No, in the courtroom, sorry.
Lori Daybell for the defense.
All right, are we ready to proceed with jury selection?
No,
Why not?
I'm sick, Your Honor. I've been sick all weekend. I let my team know yesterday I was sick.
Can you please pull the microphone a little closer? I can't hear you very well.
I'm sick. I've been sick.
Have you put in tank orders to get treatment?
Yes.
Are you being housed in the infirmary?
Nope. I'm housed where they put people in quarantine anyway. I'm housed alone. They would not move me from where I am.
Have they tested you for any communicable diseases?
No.
All right.
You asked me to let my team know. I let them know yesterday at 9 a.m. that I was still
Well,
very ill.
Sometimes we're in positions where we have to proceed when we feel under the weather.
It's not just under the weather. I'm very ill.
Do you have copies of tank orders you put in for treatment?
Not with me. I put it in on the tablet.
Is the DO able to check whether any tank orders were put in?
I can pull the literature, but I don't know when she put it in.
What's that?
I think it takes about 24 hours.
They haven't even answered my tank order yet. It takes them a long time.
So what symptoms are you having?
I have a terrible headache. I have nausea. I have chills. I have a fever, probably. I haven't been able to keep very much down besides broth and oranges.
Would you be willing to have one of your advisory councils complete the four-year process, jury selection?
Would that waive my ability to represent myself for the rest of the trial?
No.
Then can I have a moment to discuss with them for a second?
A couple things. I'm your trial judge. My instructions are to complete your second trial. So even if for some reason your sickness worsened and we weren't able to complete this trial and had to declare a mistrial as this trial, even if this case got delayed into June or July or August to be reset, I'd still be your trial judge. Additionally, last time we did jury selection in your first trial, as I recall, you asked between probably about 5 and 10 minutes of follow-up questions of the panel before we sat the jury. I only mention that in the context of not a lot of it is expected of you at this point in the trial. Depending on how you're feeling later, we could talk about whether the opening statements would have to be further bumped to tomorrow. But I would like to keep this trial on track. So if you want a few minutes to talk to your advisory council, we can do that. Is there anything the state wants to put on the record before we do that?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Do you want to do that back in the tank? All right, we'll be at recess for a few minutes.
All right.
Please be seated. All right, we're back on the record. State of Arizona versus Daybell, CR 2022-001242. The state is present. The defendant is present. Ms. Daybell.
I did discuss with my advisory council. They are not comfortable doing that. I do have a right to represent myself. I'm sorry that I'm sick. I did not plan on getting sick. I did not try to get sick. This isn't anything to do with anything other than the fact that I'm incapable of going forward and doing a good job representing myself. I've been incarcerated for over 5.5 years. I've only ever been sick one other time in the whole time I've been here.
All right. State want to be heard?
Judge, obviously, if the defendant is sick and she does have a right to represent herself, we understand that. The concern is the state does need a date certain when we're starting. I have witnesses that I rescheduled already once to fly in this week, assuming we were starting today. I obviously will need to reschedule them again. I can't keep rescheduling them every single day onto a new flight. So I am not sure how we want to proceed at this time. If we want to give the defendant a couple days, see if this jury is available to extend out to the 25th. I know we had originally talked about that and begin on Wednesday. I don't know if she will feel better by then, but that's the only suggestion I have at this time other than starting all over again at another date.
Is there a reason I couldn't proceed with some of the oral voir dire this morning? Because other than introducing herself, she wouldn't be expected to do anything this morning, and that way we can at least get rid of some of the jurors that, for whatever reason, would need to be excused.
Judge, my concern is she's in a wheelchair now.
Well, I would probably ask to have her sit in a regular seat and not be in a wheelchair that says MCSO across the back of it.
No, I am just not capable of going for, or even sitting here. I need to be laying down. I need to be getting better so that I can go forward and actually represent myself. I hope that I feel better this week and we can go forward. I can't give you any promises. I can't control any of this.
All right, I'll take the state's suggestion and try to salvage this jury in this trial. I'm sure these jurors are going to be none too happy coming down today again for a dry run.
Judge, I do have one other. I don't know if we're able to, and I understand this is Judge Kemp's courtroom. If we can start earlier for the rest of the week and next week at 10, maybe take an hour for lunch. It's just ways to try to.
Yeah, I would be willing to do that. So for Friday, I have nothing else, and Judge Kemp has nothing. We could start at 9 on Friday.
And I know we have at least one juror that we will have to excuse who was going camping on Friday.
Juror number 4, I think.
Yeah.
My schedule, we could start at 10 on Wednesday. Let me check Judge Kemp's courtroom schedule. I think he looks like he'll be done by 9:30 at the latest, so I think we'd be safe on telling the jurors to come back 10 a.m. Wednesday, get the jury picked, opening statements done. All right, I think I do need to bring the jurors in to tell them something, so can we have Ms. Daybell sit in a regular chair and not and bring the wheelchair out into the hallway?
Yeah, try and take some.
I don't think that I can even sit here. I need to go lay down. I don't understand. I don't think, last time you said it was going to be 15 minutes, it was an hour and a half where I was sitting here trying not to throw up on TV in front of the jurors.
Which maybe we could, all of us leave and they could come in and just speak with you.
That's fine.
I've had that happen before where none of the parties are here and the court just advises that we're unable to proceed
Your Honor,
today.
I don't know about you rescheduling this for Wednesday. It puts a lot of pressure on me to be better and ready for Wednesday, and if I'm not, I don't like to disappoint people. I don't like putting people out of their way, all the jurors and all these things, and all the pressure is on me. That's not going to help me get any better anytime soon.
What is your suggestion?
I don't know, but I'm saying if I were, so tomorrow if I'm not better and I let my team know, are you going to drag me in here like you did today with the team that came to get me? Do you know they felt so sorry for me to have to get dragged out of bed to be here?
Yeah, the answer is yes. I probably will order that you be here Wednesday. We'll take tomorrow off. Because I need to confirm how you're feeling. You because you represent yourself, no one else can waive your own appearance.
You're welcome to come over to the jail and come to my cell and see how I'm doing in there.
All right, I'll take a pass on that. All right, with the consent of the parties, then we'll have the parties exit. I'm going to tell the jury we're going to try to get this done on Wednesday. Obviously, that depends on whether the defendant's feeling better or not. We will, I'll tell them to be here ready to go at 10 a.m. Wednesday unless they hear something else. So I'll go ahead and ask the parties to exit. We'll keep the FTR running for the...
Okay, so that is when the parties exited. Lori exited with her team. Well, she was wheeled out. Her attorneys left. The prosecutor left. And then the jury was brought in, the jurors, and they were all seated. And Judge Boreski, we don't have video of that because it involved the jury. Before I tell you what he said, many of you are asking what's tank and what's a tank order. According to the Maricopa County Correctional Health Services, tank is a holding area or a waiting room. So they call it the tank. There's a tank right outside the courtroom where Lori will wait before she comes into court. And then in the jail, there's tanks that are isolated areas. She's already isolated areas. She's already in isolation. She's already in segregation because of her high profileness. The tank order is an inmate request form for books, legal forms, or religious material, etc. So it sounds like she has to put in a tank order to request medical services. She's got to put it in to be seen by a doctor or a nurse, somebody there at the jail, and then she's able to get that health care services that she needs. And then there's healthcare providers that will evaluate her. Now, I was live tweeting and posting live updates when this was all happening. Let me tell you what the judge said to the jurors as they came in. He said, "I'm embarrassed to tell you because I've never had this come up in my entire career. Something else has come up now and we're unable to proceed with jury selection as planned. The situation is such that we won't be able to resume until Wednesday morning. I hate to ask you guys to do this and I apologize." He again apologized. The jurors didn't seem too upset, to be honest with you. I'm sure some were a little annoyed. He asked them all to return Wednesday at 10. He tells them not to look up anything about the case, tells them not to discuss it with anyone. He then says he'll make it up to them. If they make it on the jury, he'll buy them donuts. And one of the ladies in the front row said, "That'll work," as she was leaving, and they all kind of had a laugh. They're taking it in good spirits. Of course, they have no idea what's happening, but you really risk, the longer this goes with these potential jurors, you risk them hearing stuff. You risk people talking to them about it. You risk them going home and Googling something or something coming up on Facebook. The fact that it's drawn out now, and they first were talked about Thursday, then Friday they went down. Now they won't be back until Wednesday. And I spoke with a lot of attorneys today who said if this does not happen Wednesday, it's likely they're going to have a mistrial. They're going to have to let these jurors go and call in a whole new batch unless they can speed up the trial or something. Now, you also think if Lori was sick Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that's 5 days for her to get better and be better by Wednesday. I like what the judge said about sometimes we have to do things when we're unwell. I tell my kids a lot. I have one child who seems to be sick on Monday to Friday in the morning before school, almost daily. But on Saturday and Sunday, this child's never sick. And I can't tell you how many times we've said in our house, a lot of real work in the world is done by people who don't feel well. I heard that quote years ago, that often when we don't feel well, we have to push through. And the judge gave her plenty of opportunity to push through today by having her advisory councils do the jury selection for her and even narrow it down, even do something with her not there. Now, granted, she does have a right to choose the jury. She is her own attorney. That's where the judge is stuck, because if it was Idaho, she's got attorneys that would, be looking out for her best interest. Not that her attorneys here aren't, but the ones in Idaho are like leading the case. So they, could have done that and could have helped with that selection. Instead, they didn't. And instead, we wait to see what will happen Wednesday. Now, Mike Watkiss was in the courtroom. He's the journalist I've told you about. He claims he's not a doctor, and he had some strong thoughts about what went on in the courtroom today. Here is my interview with Mike. All right, Mike, you were in the courtroom today. What did you think? Is Lori really sick?
Well, I'm not a doctor, Nate, and I want to put that on the record. I am a cynical old cops and robbers reporter. And from that point of view, I got to confess, it seemed like someone who was desperately trying to convince people that she was sick, as opposed to someone who was actually sick. That was sort of my read of, I thought it was a powerful, almost pathetic, pity party from the get-go. And Lori was not willing to give any ground to sort of mitigate the situation. She was sick. She didn't want to go forward, and that's what she got.
Yeah, what'd you think with the wheelchair? I mean, we
Nice touch.
nice.
Nice theatrical touch is what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought Lori deserved an Oscar today. She went in, looked as utterly pathetic as she sounded, and looked as utterly pathetic as she possibly could. And she may well be sick. And if she is, I'm sorry for making light of any of this. But my read on this was Lori has run out of any cards to play, and now it's just sort of obstruction. I can control and manipulate the situation by claiming to be sick, and I think that's what the card she played this morning.
You have the judge there who is doing his best, I think, to contain his frustration, you could say, with it.
I'd say exasperation is what.
Aspiration, that's a good
Yeah,
word. Even
yeah.
suggesting, well, why can't your advisory attorneys pick the jury? Or why can't you stay here? Because he did make a point. She spoke for maybe 10 minutes in the other trial when the jury was picked, but she insisted she had to go lay down. She couldn't sit. Even when he said, can we move you to the other chair so the jurors can come in? She did not want to move out of the wheelchair.
No, yeah, I thought that was the nice theatrical touch in a wheelchair. Beautiful. Okay, and so I think that she was playing. She's got nothing else to play anymore, and this is really her only way to establish some sort of control. She's tried to be Clarence Darrow, the attorney. She's tried to cross-examine witnesses. She's tried a myriad of things in the courtroom. None of them have worked. And now it's just I can obstruct this as long as I can. And we have talked about this, Nate, that it seems in Arizona she really has nothing to lose after what happened up in Idaho. But at this point, she really has nothing to lose. The first trial is over. The second trial is probably going to go as badly as for her as the first one did. And now what the hell does she got?
So let me ask you, because last time we spoke, it was after Charles's trial. You said you were kind of hoping for a little bit more of an animated Lori during that trial, that she was relatively calm and presented some reasonable, somewhat arguments. You're seeing a more passionate Lori this time around in the prior hearings. I don't know if you've been in the courtroom or you've seen the video of that, Mike.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about her interactions so far with the judge?
Well, look, I think she is sort of openly contemptuous of the judge. She's made it very clear that she hates the judge and looks at him as sort of the source of all evil that is going on in the courtroom. He represents all of her frustrations, I think. So, her relationship with the judge, and I think he's a patient man. I think he has displayed that he's really trying. But, when someone is just does continue to sort of act as if they are the smartest person in the room when they're not, and like Lori does, it's difficult, and he's trying to maintain a balance. It does remind me, and we talked about this before, the other very famous case I covered where somebody represented themselves, Warren Jeffs. It was a mess. Warren did a horrible job and probably guaranteed that he would be found guilty. And Lori's doing much the same in a very different kind of performance, but they're just so bad at what they're doing, and it's not winning. She obviously didn't win any points with the previous jury, and at this point the judge just has had it, and I think is doing his level best to try not to really sort of lose his cool, and he hasn't, and he can't, and I'm sure he will be professional throughout, but it's starting to wear on everybody, I think, who's watched this performance.
Yeah, what's your take on Trina K? What do you do? You've got these witnesses she's now had to reschedule twice, some
Right.
of them coming from Idaho. That's it can be a pain when you don't know where the case is going and what's going to even happen today.
Yeah, and Miss Kay has done a really admirable job in putting this together and tried to keep a level head and just played it straight. Kudos to the prosecutor. I think she's done a really bad this together. But it's a nightmare for her. And she's juggling these witnesses, as you say. And now Nate, we now have about, what is it, 60, 70 people in this sort of potential jury pool. They were hoping to get that whittled down to 16 people, which is a big number, but it's a lot less, unwieldy than 60 people. And that's sort of what we have hanging out there. 60 people, or how is it, 60, 70 people?
54, yeah, 54.
54. It filled up damn near half the courtroom. So you got this big group of people who are sort of stuck in abeyance. I'm sorry, my meter's going off here, but the you got all these people waiting, and the judge, do I let these people go and start back from scratch? I mean, if they can't start this trial moving on Wednesday, as the judge obviously indicated he'd like to do, I think they're in real trouble. They're going to have to release this jury and start all over with the questionnaires and all the stuff we sat through, and it's a nightmare. But again, what does Lori have to lose? She doesn't care. And I've written this in my little. I've got a column on my Facebook. I call it Lori Palooza, and it's sort of my take on Miss Daybell's trial. And I've really come to see this as sort of tax subsidized theater of the absurd. Really, we're just paying for sort of an absurd piece of theater that now, and I want this young man to get his day in court, the victim, and for that to be, and that's important. But really, in the grand scheme of things, with all that's transpired, and this is dragging out now, and Lori can manipulate it all she wants with this medical claims. It's a mess. And you wonder what the hell are we getting out of this? Hopefully, there will be some conclusion for this young man and his family. But Lori is, she's a piece of work.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're going to be there the next few days. I guess on Wednesday, that'll be the day to
At
see
least Wednesday, yeah. So we'll see if we get it going then.
what else are you working on, Mike? Let the public know what's happening.
Well, you know what? We've concluded this Samuel Bateman story where the convicted the men and a number of the women involved in this sort of break-off cult, and I just don't think it got enough play. And we were sort of, my daughter and I were involved in the coverage from early on, and so I'm trying to put, I think trying to put something where the FLDS community is now, and how an offshoot like Sam Bateman was really an inevitability of what Warren Jeffs had put in motion. Trying to put something together so I can try to explain that story either in a book or some form or another. Nate, I'm going to go hide out for a while and do some writing and see what I can come up with.
All right. Well, when it's ready, I want you to come back and tell everybody about it.
Well, hey, listen, buddy, I hope you're having a nice time back, and welcome back to Arizona. The weather's not exactly great this time of year, but it's great having you here.
I was just thinking, I'm used to working nonstop, and here we've had these delays, delays, delays. I want to get this show on the road, but I'm not the only one. I know that.
Well, hey, listen, you're a great guy, and it's really been interesting to get acquainted with you. So thank you. And after we did that interview with you a couple of weeks ago, we really got a lot of exposure. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, good. Yeah, let everybody know your channel for those people just tuning in for the first time.
Story Hustler. You can find it on YouTube. It's a channel that my daughter and I have been putting together, and we've really focused on the FLDS, the modern day FLDS, what's happening there with Warren Jeffs and the Sam Babe.
Right.
The last 3 years, anyhow, check it out. And I got a book called Story Hustler on Amazon. So
I want to ask you one more thing. I showed the clip of you interviewing the Night Stalker,
yes,
which
sir.
a lot of our commenters, even me, it's like, man, that guy is creepy. If you could go back and interview any of these killers or con artists, thieves, is there one you're dying to get with again? Like maybe Warren Jeffs? Would you want to interview him?
Yeah. I mean, I would interview Warren, but Warren would never sit. He would never condescend. It would be stepping down so far for him off his podium, his pedestal, that he would never be seen dealing with a man like me. Yeah, I mean, if Warren, you want to sit down with me, I'm the guy you should talk to. If you can sit down and we can mud wrestle for a half hour, you show what a man you are. But he'll never do that, you know. I'd love to do Ramirez over again, but unfortunately, my friend Richard is now deceased. There's a million people I'd love to interview. I'd still love to interview Edward R. Murrow. So there's some of the, but again, those things aren't going to happen. So interviewing you, Nate, that's as good as it gets.
Samuel Bateman, he could be one on your list.
Yeah, you know, I've talked to Sam. The interest, I find the women got out of there. And we're in touch with many of the young women who were sort of, you know, the victims. I say they're survivors that testified against him. And we're still in contact with many of them. And they're some of them just graduated from high school, two of them. They're remarkable young women. I find them much more interesting. A guy like Sam Bateman is going to give me his bullshit line, and I know what he's going to say. They're not the mover. He's not the mover and shaker. He's a putz who took advantage of a lot of people. Right. These girls are the story.
Yeah, and not comparing politicians to criminals, but that's often how it is when you interview a politician. They're so canned in their responses; they know how to answer it. It's very smooth. And I don't want to talk to them. I want to talk to you. You know, real people.
Right. Much better journalism.
Mike, thanks so much. I'll put
always a pleasure, my friend.
And I guess we'll see you Wednesday. See what happens.
Let's pray. Let's get this show on the road.
Let's do it. My thanks to Mike. I know that there were some glitches there. As you can tell, our connection with him was not the strongest, kept freezing, but I'll post the entire interview on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and watch it in case it glitched out for you. So thanks to Mike. He's been there every day. You know, journalists that cover these things, and he's covered a lot of crazy cases, worked for the tabloid, like A Current Affair, Hard Copy, those type of shows. They have dealt with criminals, narcissists, people that love it about them. And that is what they think and deal with, and that's just what he has. All right, so I jumped over from Mike to talk to Rachel Smith, the prosecutor. Remember, I interviewed her last night. She actually was supposed to be in trial today for her own trial. That got moved. It got delayed. It got continued to talk about her thoughts about what happened today in court and what happens if Lori is sick on Wednesday. So here is the conversation with Special Prosecutor Rachel Smith. What do you think about today's proceedings?
Lori has been pretty clear all along, so it would be a pretty rapid departure from what she's wanted to do, which is get her trial done. So I believe she's probably sick. She of course loves the drama, so there's probably a degree of height in that. But I would suspect she's pretty sick. And whether she takes that step back and gets counsel like she could, I don't know. But it's very clear to me the judge has lost his patience with this issue.
Yeah, I think he's kind of stuck because this jury has come back for the second day in a row. And if Wednesday comes and she still can't proceed, do you ask them to come back again the next day, or do you have to get a whole new pool?
Well, I will tell you, you're right, Nate, you're right, that he is in a difficult spot, because if at what point do they blame one side or the other, right? And pretty quickly, if she's the one sitting there in a wheelchair, she's the one that may get the blame. So it may be that the judge has no choice but to continue this trial. I do wonder from her comments, and this is rank speculation, but is he worried that she is doing it to try to delay it, thinking she'll get a new judge? Which his comments made me wonder whether that was what was going on.
Right. Before he decided to proceed explaining, he said, I want to, make sure you understand a few things. One, I am the trial judge on this case. Yeah. Whether we have the trial this week or it gets continued or whatever, it will be me. I think trying to make it clear to her that because he just filed a bunch of motions against her or responded to a bunch of her motions saying denied. So whether he thought she might be faking or using this as a ploy to push it off, he made it clear, I'm going to be on this. And he also gave her the option to let her counsel, her advisory counsel, pick the jury without her or just have her sit there and not say a word. Yet she said, no, I don't want to do that.
Right. It's classic Lori. She wants it to be about her. And it's very, I think if she's sick and under the weather, she may realize she's not her own best advocate, and but she doesn't want to take advantage of what she does have. So I think if she shows up on Wednesday and acts like she's really sick or makes a really good record, the judge is going to be in a tough spot with trying to keep that jury around.
What does this do to the prosecutor when you're planning out your case and your schedule of witnesses, especially those who are flying in, and you've got 22 on the list and you've got your opening statement? What does this do in your, as you're a prosecutor in your mind thinking about this? What does it do?
Yeah. You it's that you're focused, you're ready, your adrenaline's flowing, you're really ready to go. And then when something happens last minute, it takes you a bit to pivot. You get pretty tired, that adrenaline flows down, you're spent for a little while. And then you get frustrated for your victims and your witnesses, right? Because again, not about you. And so you get pretty tired yourself. But once you get your energy back, you work really hard to get a quick court date, get it on there for your victims, your witnesses, and get it going. So this prosecutor on Lori's case is really experienced. She'll have that quick sort of decompress, adrenaline gone, and then she'll regroup and be ready if that happens.
A lot of people commenting, can't the judge force her to stay in the courtroom?
Yes, oh, absolutely. The judge can force her to stay, or he can tell her. I mean, there's a record that needs to be tried, put together. I've done similar motions called motions for courtroom decorum. I think I've talked about that before, where you say, Judge, this is a certain, please give them warnings. There's a certain level of warnings that have to happen. There's a couple Supreme Court cases out there on that issue. And so I suspect the judge will give her warnings, make her be there. I mean, they can even bind and gag somebody. That's not going to happen to Lori Vallow, but the courts if they lay the right foundation, they give the right warnings, they give the chance after chance after chance. There's the whole range of options available to a judge. Everything from trying it absentia, meaning, the person's in another room, either listening by, teleprompter or WebEx, to make them sit there and bind and gang them. So he's got a ton of options. I doubt Lori will let it get that far. But the judge could do a lot of things. And you see him, each one of these little things, and I think you called it baby steps the other day, that's spot on. He's taking those incremental baby steps to say, look, I'm giving you another chance. I'm giving you another chance. One example is where Lori said, are you going to drag me out of the cell and make me come? And he's like, yes, you're going to be at your trial. Right. So that's an example of him building a good record and giving her extra chances. He's really laying the foundation to, you're getting this done, and you're going to be here voluntarily or involuntarily.
Is there anything out of this trial you're hoping to learn, Rachel? Anything, you covered the Idaho one personally, you were there, you followed the other ones. Anything you're hoping to get out of this one?
I would love to see more about, love to see how evidence related to Lori's participation in the planning, the conspiracy, the steps taken to kill Brandon, is presented by somebody else, Trina. She's going to go way deeper than we needed to in Idaho. I'll be very interested to see how that evidence unfolds as to Lori and how the prosecutor, Trina, puts it on. So, from the prosecutor side, I'm always interested to see how other people do things. That's an issue about Lori's direct participation in this effort to kill Brandon, will unfold in front of a jury, and how they respond.
The number one question I think I'm asked about this case, why isn't Chad charged? Why isn't Melanie Pawlowski charged? You probably don't know the specifics, but what can you say?
Yeah, I don't. Well, there, in terms of Arizona's decision to charge Chad, that is straight prosecutorial decision. It is discretion of a prosecutor to make that charge. if the state does not believe there's enough to connect them to furthering a conspiracy, that the words involved are only mere words, that they aren't actions in furtherance, or that there's not words plus a few deeds, then they're not going to charge somebody. And if you have a conspiracy of all these different players, right? Some people may not have known that they were conspiring against the person, but they may not have known it was a conspiracy, even a murder. So the degree of knowledge that a person has of the ultimate goal affects the decision to charge. The degree of participation beyond mere words affects the decision to charge. And so if you don't have sort of that nice combination of words plus deeds plus actions to further, then oftentimes you choose not to charge. You can't just charge somebody because they would benefit. You can't just charge somebody who may have talked about something. You got to have the words, the intent, and the deeds. And if any of those are weak or any of those are missing, even if in your gut, you know, it might have been there, if those things are missing, you don't charge.
But it sounds like they feel like they have enough that Lori has those words,
Mhm.
deeds, and
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah. And I think, again, in this case, as in many of her others, that iCloud and other text communications with Alex in particular, Alex and Chad in particular, is going to be Lori's downfall. Lori's own actions, Lori's own words are what really will jam her up.
And is that the same reason why you think Melanie's not being charged?
I think it's, I have not, I was not part of the decision process. Ultimately, that's a Maricopa County choice. So I don't know specifically from Maricopa County why they didn't. But if I had to guess, it's you need that combination of all three on a conspiracy case. And if any of those is weak, the other reason you may not charge all the co-conspirators is if you swing and miss at one, that emboldens all the others. So there's some real valid reasons that on a conspiracy charge, you hold it so that your evidence is tight and it meets all those pieces.
Well,
And Lori's evidence on that is tight. Like, we used a lot of her motive and her intent and her words in Idaho. We didn't use them all. And we didn't have everything that Arizona now has. So her role in this, kind of with conspiracy, another angle on how you pick who you have to go after, is that sort of but for test. But for Lori Vallow's involvement, would this have happened? Alex on his own didn't just come up with this, right? So, but for Lori Vallow, there wouldn't have been an effort to kill Brandon Boudreaux. And so that makes her sort of a central person of the conspiracy who needs to go.
yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the explanation. Hopefully that answers all your questions, because every night we get those questions.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
single time.
Yeah. It's one of those that, like, in your gut, maybe people know what they think happened in various cases. It's that classic, what your gut says and what the evidence can prove may be different things, and it's frustrating.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, Rachel?
No, I appreciate it. I
Well,
love talking to you.
Thanks for coming on. All right, there you go, Rachel Smith. Always a pleasure talking with her. Hopefully that answers some of your questions, and we will see. So what happens now? As I mentioned, Wednesday morning, we will gather at the courthouse at 10 o'clock. We'll see if Lori is better or at least well enough to proceed with jury selection. Hopefully, in an ideal world, they get the jury seated by after lunch around. They shorten the lunch break maybe from 90 minutes to 60, and that opening statements then happen also on Wednesday, and then the witnesses would begin Thursday, or maybe opening statements begin Thursday. We're now backed up. Well, we'll be backed up at least 2 days. Well, probably 3 total by the time it starts. So with Friday, you have that as a makeup day, and then it could continue all of next week. What was originally planned is that the trial would probably end midweek next week, but the following week, the judge is in a conference all week. So regardless, that week will be dark. And then if we have to come back the following week, that second to last week of June, we will see if that happens. So that's where we stand. Now, tomorrow night, I'm still have a Courtroom Insider, should have a special guest here to talk about the case, someone with intimate knowledge about it. So I hope you'll tune in tomorrow night, even though there is no court. We'll still do a Courtroom Insider, and we will talk all about with this special guest about what they know. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, newspapers.com. A couple of you emailed me saying that you love newspapers.com or you want to get into it. One woman, Curly, Grandma, thank you, Curly, said, I loved hearing that newspapers.com is one of your sponsors. I've subscribed to that service for a number of years. Talk about deep dives. In 1966 in Denver, Colorado, a local kidnapping turned murder incident became a traumatic memory of my youth and haunted me for decades. This particular case is one of the first dives I took after subscribing to newspaper.com. I found a lot of information about it, and it's helped me to process through my emotional history. Fascinating to hear that when you can go back and read these things and understand it when you're older, can take on new eyes. I still think often of Paula Sue and consider that perhaps that experience might be one of the things that's kept me glued to this deeply layered Lori Vallow Daybell case. Thanks for what you do. Hope to see you next week. Newspapers.com. I mentioned last night the promo code. Here's how you can get the promo code. They set up a special link for me. Isn't that nice? That's so nice. Newspapers.com/Nate. You can get 20% off your membership, and they're offering a 7-day free trial. You can just go try it out. If you want to look up old cases, type in the name of the case. They'll, go down. You can explore all sorts of stuff. I'm excited to actually go on and explore about some of these trials from when I was young. Do you remember the Lori hacking case? If you're in the Utah area, I think I was interning or in college when this woman went for a run and disappeared. And then her husband, who was allegedly in med school, came out and said he didn't know where he was. And then they caught him running around naked. And it turns out he was lying. He wasn't in med school. He actually killed her and dumped her body in the landfill, I think with a mattress. Gory, graphic stuff. That is one of those trials I remember talking about our Curly's comment here just a minute ago. Anyway, I might go on newspapers.com and look those up. So thanks to newspapers.com for helping us out this go round. I also have to mention one thing. Apparently, there's all this talk about donuts. You remember how in the first trial, I brought donuts to our line sitters, the people I became friends with during Lori's trial. And that day, the jury had a verdict. Then I did it again in Chad's trial. And that day, the jury had a verdict. I didn't do it in the last one, but was close. Well, now the judge said today that he's going to bring donuts for the jurors when they actually convene a jury. He'll bring them donuts. If you watch our YouTube channel, when Jordan was here, my colleague last time, we drove around and actually went live trying different donuts. All this talk about donuts. Oh, and then I just found out National Donut Day is Friday. So what I do tonight, I went to Krispy Kreme. I wasn't gonna eat it in front of you here, but it was delicious. And the kid remembered me. The kid that was in there, he's like, hey, I remember you. You got shorter hair. I got a haircut. He was so nice. He gave me a free donut. So anyway, there's your donut picture for the night. They were hot off the fryer, covered in glaze, just a lot of fun, a lot of good stuff there. Had to end on a light note considering this weird day. Let's get to your shout outs and your questions here. Okay, Peggy, I know you sent them to us. Shout out to Peggy, who's watching and wants to thank you all for the nice anniversary well wishes yesterday. Charlene or Clarine Brown from Rexburg. Thank you, Clarine. Pam Lyons from Comanche, Iowa. Elizabeth Wells from Connecticut. Happy birthday, Elizabeth. Thanks for watching. Lisa W. from Filer, Idaho. I've driven through Filer. Thanks for watching, Lisa. Liz Roberts from Belfast, Northern Ireland. Heidi Rockwood from Rigby. Ashley Reese from Carrollton, Georgia. Good to see you here, Ashley. Risa Greenwood from Afton, Wyoming. Charla Spears from Blackfoot. Mother and daughter named Tatum and Stephanie watching me from Gilbert. Thank you so much. Marjorie Carpenter from Sandpoint, Idaho. Good to have you here. Sandra Peters from Northern Nevada. Ange Perkins from North Indiana. Jean Nellies from Scotland. Virginia Bradshaw from Perth. You've watched since Hawaii. Thank you. Perth, Washington. And Tash Sardi from Qatar, Middle East, where it's 5:30 in the morning. I hope you're eating a donut for breakfast, Tosh. Gwenda Reynolds from Australia is also there. Peggy, do we have any men on this list? We have a lot of ladies watching. Men, comment. We'll have to add you in tomorrow. We'll say hello to you. I appreciate anyone that watches. I want to show you a photo of this wonderful woman. I won't reveal her age. She does not look her age. She sent me a beautiful little Courtroom Insider thing that she made. She mailed it to me in my office, and then she followed up with some letters. I wrote her back. I meant to bring the little thing with me, but I didn't, and I'll show it to you one day. She came to court today. We got a picture together. There it is. There we go. Right outside the courtroom. Such a nice lady. She waited outside the courtroom. There we go with our light to get a photo with me. So thank you very much for your kindness in sending me that. And it's always great to meet you all. There were some familiar faces in court today who I knew in Idaho who came back for this trial. And some that came in, I feel bad like for today and tomorrow, but there's no court. So I guess that's just how it is. Questions. Elizabeth, how long can this go on? Can she be sick forever? She can't be the first to try this move. She can't. It's, as we kind of talked about that with Rachel, it's kind of in a weird spot because I think the judge will set so many, benchmarks, and he's giving her 2 days, all day today and all day tomorrow to recover. So I think Wednesday, we'll see. We'll see where it ends. If Lori keeps staying sick, would the judge be able to say she's not able to represent herself and then get an actual defense attorney so we can get on with this? I don't think so. She does have the right to represent herself, and that's what the judges kind of said today. Like, okay, I'll give you the time. Now, Wednesday, if she cannot continue on, if she's diagnosed with something, I would think the judge might encourage the jail to do some testing or something. My worry is, what if her attorneys come down with it? What if they end up with COVID tomorrow, or other people in the courtroom, or they can't show up? I would be really, really nervous if I was the attorneys, getting in small rooms, smaller than this hotel room, in close proximity with her, discussing these sicknesses and not wanting to. I mean, I left the courtroom and went and washed my hands. I just am paranoid like that. So I don't think she can stay sick forever. Emmy, in all of your time on this trial, have you ever seen Lori act like this? I have not. I haven't. I know a lot of you think she's faking. I know Mike Watkiss thinks she's faking. I don't think she's 100% faking. We all have different tolerances of sickness. I might go into work dying, and they might have to say, go home, you are sick. Whereas other people get a cough and they stay home. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying that I think she was sick enough that she needed a wheelchair, sick enough that she, couldn't go on for the day and have her attorneys do the work, and she just sits there. I don't know. Now, the next person, Anna, says, is there a possibility Lori can conduct her business via Zoom or video call? That's a good point. That is an interesting point. The thing is, because she's the defendant, they're not supposed to know, that they know she's on trial, but she would have to dress up, which she was dressed up today. So she did get in her normal clothes today. She was not in a jailhouse uniform. And I don't know, maybe it's possible she could be on Zoom and they would tell the jurors that she's not here. She's watching via remote or something. I don't know. It would be convenient if she just let her attorneys choose the jury, but it sounds like they didn't feel comfortable doing that when she didn't want them to do that. Sean says, was Lori dressed in street clothes? Oh, just answered your question. No, she was in her normal clothes, and I think she dressed up just in case the jurors were brought in. Can the general public be in the courtroom while a jury is selected? If so, has there been a lot of general public there? Yes, with a caveat. The general public can be, but it all depends on numbers of seats. And because there are 60 jurors that came down, 54-ish, they have precedent and they took up one side of the courtroom. And then I think today, 15 members of the public got in. There were a few that did not. The media gets the back row. There were 10 of us. And then once the jury's picked, everyone can go in. So there is a limit kind of on that. On Friday, there were 5 people there. Of course, there were more today thinking that we'd have opening statements after jury selection, but a lot did not get in. I imagine that's how it'll be Wednesday. There were some people that just really want to see Lori, so I imagine on Wednesday people will be there to try to get in and see how it goes. If they make a mini series or a movie out of this Daybell saga, who will play you? They did. They did do a movie. I won't show you the movie. It was on Lifetime, and I won't comment on how awesome it was or not. I did watch it. They sent me a copy. This is the guy who played me. He's actually a mechanical engineer. You know what? Is it okay? I'll play you the trailer. And you can see what you thought of it. This is like a 30-second clip.
Did Lori truly believe the things Chad told her about the Dark Souls?
That's me.
And the mission and the end of the world?
She wanted to. She needed to.
Why is that something she would need?
I don't know, it's like there's this emptiness she's trying to fill.
And Chad finally filled it.
Yes. But she said to me early on, Mel, if he's Satan, he's a good one.
That was Melanie Gibb. That was a direct quote from the interview I did with Melanie Gibb. So this guy, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. His name is Spencer Lord. Very nice guy. And when I interviewed him, I interviewed him for a story. This was back in 2021. So this is 4 years. He said that he studied all of my interviews and interactions. So anyway, but if I could choose someone to play, he's far more handsome than I am and has more hair. If I could choose someone to play me, geez, I don't know. My wife says like, Zac Efron, because we look so much alike, me and Zach. Nancy Wilson. Is this the Nancy Wilson I know, Nancy? If it is, hi, I interviewed you. Why can't the judge just order her to be there? On Daryl Brooks' trial, he tried the sick thing and the judge ordered him to be there and wear a mask. He was acting as his own attorney. Maybe that's the next step. The judge is taking these kind of baby steps to make sure that things are happening, and that could be the next step. Trudy asked if Lori had a mask on. She had a mask. I didn't see her wearing it. Is one able to order special things like broth and oranges? I don't know. I imagine if you're sick, you might be able to request that, or they could bring it in. Was the advisory council will have said no into representing her today? With the advisory council will have said no to representing her today. I don't know what you mean, Carrie, but Lori said that they didn't want that. We have not heard from them. They consulted with her in private, so we don't know exactly what was said. Is there a statute of limitations for the conspiracy and attempted murder in Arizona, thinking about Melanie P? That's a good question. I know on a lot of murder cases, and this falls under the felony murder category in Arizona, there is no statute of limitations for murder and even rapes in a lot of states now, because you find that now people are getting tried for murders 40 and 50 years ago. So if that's how it is in Arizona, which I'm not 100% sure, I would imagine there is no statute of limitations. Any word on the motions the judge was going to write his response to on Friday from BJ? We went over that earlier, BJ. If you missed it, you can check it out. He denied them all. Ashley, does Lori have to be checked out by medical personnel at the jail, or can she just say she's sick? I would think if she shows up Wednesday and a medical professional has not seen her, or she says they haven't responded to her, I think the judge will say, okay, that was on you. You were supposed to get it done. You didn't get it done. We are going to proceed. And then it would be interesting to see what happens there. Paul asks, will there ever be justice for Joe Ryan? That's a tough question, Paul. Joe Ryan was cremated, and I don't believe that there's an investigation into that case. So if there was anything nefarious, I don't know how to answer that. Why is the video that was taken of Melanie P outside of Brandon's house with Alex not being used in this case? Wendy asks. Well, that was in Utah, and I don't know. I have no idea why it's not. There's a lot that, well, actually, we don't know. Maybe it will be. I shouldn't say I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it is brought in. If it's not, that's something I could ask the prosecutor when the trial's over. What if they go on without Lori in this case? Will that give her a better chance for appeals from Rosemary? Yeah, I think they need to have her. I mean, she's the defendant, especially against her will. She would argue to be there. What kind of advice can Lori's counsel give her? Can she ask them for case law, or must she investigate that herself? It's all up to Lori. It's whatever Lori wants from them. She can ask them questions. She can investigate. I know she investigates. She's got legal books. and knows how to cite case law. It's all up to whatever advice she wants, she can ask. What are the chances this case can be turned over on appeal? I think the same chances as others. The judge is being careful, though, and what he's granting and giving her time and laying out the record. So rather than rushing it through, I think that the judge is doing the best that he can to help in the appellate process. It will go to appeal. They always do. Whether there's any strength in the appeal or any legal recourse, that will yet to be seen. Okay, I think we're going to stop there. So Peggy, save some of these other ones for tomorrow. We're going late. I apologize for that due to the technical glitches. Oh, one other question from Amanda. Why was today's video more like a video court feed? Because it was, Amanda. That's exactly what it was. Good question. What happened is the video camera from Court TV was set up and ready to go, but we cannot show any jury selection. We did not know what was going to transpire. We assumed all the jurors were going to be brought in, and then that would have been really bad if they recorded it. Therefore, once things got underway, they couldn't just suddenly start going because we weren't sure. After the fact, the court records video all the time, and it's called the FTR, for the record. And what happened is after the fact, we asked if we could get a copy of that. And that's where we stand. All right, 2 other questions. Linda, hey, Nate, saw you on an old episode of Let's Make a Deal. Did you go on both trips that you won? We didn't go on either trip that we won, Linda. This was back in 2012, I think. My wife and I were going to Australia. We stopped in LA for a night. We went to Let's Make a Deal. We got picked. I was dressed as a banana. She was a sock monkey. And we won the big deal. We picked curtain number 3, and it was 2 trips. One was to Croatia and one was to the Caribbean. And we had to take both within a year, and we had to pay, I think, $6,000 in taxes up front. We did not have $6,000. And if we had, I would say Priceline the cases, but after our experience in Mexico, I don't know if we'd use Priceline. If we had planned those trips ourselves, it likely would have cost less than $6,000. Not dogging on the trips, because they would have been amazing. It was like a massage every day and dinners and everything. But bigger than that, we had to take both trips within a year. There were blackout dates around the times when we could go. And we found out that Erica was expecting Emmy, our first. So we couldn't go. So we turned down the trips. We walked away with nothing. We won nothing. We won the prizes, but we did nothing. But we have good memories. And I told Erica, next year I'm determined to get on Let's Make a Deal again with her. I wonder, Basia wonders if the delay trial indefinitely will set up the sentencing date for the guilty of conspiracy to murder Charles beforehand. Oh, you're wondering if they'll sentence her on that before the other trial. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens Wednesday. Wednesday is the big determining day. Personally, I'm hoping it happens. I think we all are. I hope it happens Wednesday, and we go through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we go all of next week, and maybe we still have a verdict by the end of next week. But we shall see. And this is where you shall see me on Facebook, on X, on Insta, and East Idaho News. If you want to watch that, Let's Make a Deal, by the way, it's on our Meetin' the Eatons YouTube channel. You can go watch it. We had a lot of fun, and we were much younger and more energetic and more carefree, and now we're tired. No, we're not. Thanks, everybody, so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow night, as I said, with a special guest talking about the case. Thanks to Peggy for doing our questions, as always. And take care. We'll see you. Bye.